build them, break them, and build them back up again. Today on Xtreme 4x4, the Ranger is resurrected for good. Plus, another christening of Ian and Jessi's creations when the Poison Spyder hits the trail hard.
Hey everybody, welcome to Xtreme 4x4, where today we're tearing back into our Poison Spyder Bruiser 8 rock rod. Basically finishing up all the odds and ends on that truck, like the axle shafts, drive shafts, brake pedals and brake lines, everything we need to get this truck on the trail. And by the end of the day, it'll be on the trail.
And I know you guys are probably thinking, man, I hope this payoff is gonna be better than their last payoff they did on the Ranger. But you guys waited for that truck to get done forever. So today we're gonna fix it and take it out as well. Our Bruiser 8 chassis was delivered to us by the guys at Poison Spyder Customs located in Denver, Colorado.
And it took us no time at all to stuff an all-aluminum LS1, 4L65E trans, and Atlas 2 transfer case.
And pull that safety?
Yep, into our new tube chassis.
Then it was time to sling some diffs under our new beast. And since you guys asked for more junkyard rebuilds, we started with 2 Dana 60s and built them from scratch with new Superior gears and Detroit lockers front and rear.
Then we had a rolling chassis that we filled with Mastercraft seats, Autometer gauges, and of course, painless performance wiring. And with our axles fully assembled, we could go ahead and measure for and order our custom axle shafts from Superior Axle and Gear. Now the rear, all we had to do was send the old shafts out and have these new ones matched to them. But the front, since all we started with was the center section, are 100% custom. Ours are from Superior as well, and the inner and outer shafts will be connected with rebuildable CTM U-joints. And at the wheel, we will use Poly Performance drive flanges. With axle shafts in our differentials, we can go ahead and install our drive shafts. Now ours came from Denny's drive shaft. They're heavy-duty steel units with super strong 1350 U-joints at the axle end. Now the way you can make sure you have enough slip travel in your drive shaft is pretty simple. You just have to take 3 measurements. The first one, you extend your suspension all the way out to its limits and measure from the transfer case to the axle. Then pull the springs out and let it compress all the way, same measurement, and then the same measurement again with it sitting on its springs at ride height. Those 3 measurements to your drive shaft guy, you get a shaft that fits every time.
When it comes to the brakes on our Bruiser 8 chassis, there's a lot of scenarios that we discussed, and the most obvious would be to run a dual master cylinder. But the advantage of having an Atlas 2 transfer case is that you can run each axle independently and do front or rear digs, which means you can hit the brakes on one axle and the other axle digs in, allowing the buggy to do really tight turns. But then it came to us, why run 1 pedal when we can run 2 pedals? So we called up Wilwood and they sent us 2 pedal assemblies and 2 7/8 rebuildable master cylinders. We built a custom mounting bracket so we can put the pedals side by side and close together. We're using Crown Performance braided lines for all of our brake lines. Using flex lines will make the install very easy and quick.
The LS series of engines is a little more complicated than GM's other crate engines. First of all, it does not ship with any accessory drives. So we went ahead and installed the March Performance full polish drive on the front of this engine. But the big difference is in the fuel delivery. The LS fuel pump in the tank has an internal return bypass. There's only 1 fuel line running up to the engine. But on any aftermarket fuel cell, like our tank from Rock Valley, it's gonna have 2 lines, a feed and a return. So to run that type of system, you gotta swap out the fuel rail. The fuel rail is simply removed from the top of the engine. Then the fuel injectors are swapped from one rail to another, along with the fuel pressure regulator. Then the new rail can be bolted to the motor.
We're going to be using Russell's Dash 6 steel braided line with an inline fuel filter. Now inside this fuel cell, there's a sock filter that'll keep the dirt from damaging the fuel pump, but this finer screen unit will help keep dirt from damaging our injectors. All right, now when you're running your fuel lines through the chassis, you want to make sure that you're keeping clear of any heat source. In our case, we have exhaust on both sides, and even if we run it down the middle, we still have a chance of getting heat from the transmission. So we're going to be wrapping it in this heat protective shield just to be safe. Now all we have to do is check the computer for codes and all our electrical connections.
Top up the fluids,
It's full.
flip the switches, and hit the key to hear it all fire up.
It's an LS1, baby, yeah.
Later on, a broken bolt did this to the Ranger. Ian and Jessi make repairs and put both on the trail. But up next, the best in the desert proves to be one wild ride. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Xtreme 4x4. This week in our window to the off-road world, we're going desert racing.
And if you don't have a desert truck, no worries, because riding shotgun as a navigator is just as much fun. It doesn't matter if it's a buggy or a trophy truck, a best in the desert race is all about surviving the Nevada moonscape.
I already rolled it. Yeah.
The desert is tough. The desert is surprising. The desert is unforgiving.
Over 400 miles, missing body parts and broken trucks are par for this course.
That's what racing off-road is all about. It's you, the machine, in the desert.
You're right on the edge, and that's kind of where you want to stay. Just slightly off, total maniac.
To endure out here takes more than a great driver and a bulletproof rig.
Navigators have become a very, very important part of our racing.
These men riding shotgun do more than hold a map.
The function is just to help the driver out with anything he needs.
One of the most important things that the co-driver does is keeps track of all of the critical systems on the car. That allows the driver to concentrate 100% on driving. Also, I keep track of dangers ahead.
Left. Oh. Right there. I didn't see that.
They even handle more intimate chores.
I'll keep food on my side of the vehicle, and whenever the driver needs some food, I open it up, I break it into bite-sized pieces, hand it over, that type of thing. So it's kind of like being a wife or a girlfriend riding along.
That's what wins races. You got to help each other out. It's a team effort.
From that intimacy comes a connection with their driver.
Come on, baby. You're the man. You're the man.
The more time you spend with this same person, the better team you become.
You're trying to focus when you race, and the more you race with that person, the better off you are. They know what you want.
It takes a special person to be a right-hand man.
How's our gauges look? Everything's looking good.
Most good navigators are probably intellects, because they like to think, they like to analyze, they like to read the charts, they like to keep on top of the GPS, see what's coming up, and be a part of that action of it.
That's the danger up there. It's marked too. It can be a little scary over there. Personally, I can't sit over there. I can't sit over there with anybody. I can't. I'm just not sure what they're going to do, and I'm just not a good rider. They have to really trust the driver, and they need to be trusting and think that everything's going to work out. It always doesn't, but they need to think that way.
I'll drive vehicles in pre-runs and stuff like that, and yes, it is much easier to drive, I think, than to ride.
You don't have control. You're just sitting here pretty much, It's exciting. You're at the edge of your seat pretty much at all times.
There ever been a time through some section where I'm sitting there going, I can't believe I'm here. I sure wish I was sitting in a lawn chair somewhere. Yeah, those times have happened.
Some rough stuff.
When you get on something a little smoother, the speed picks up, you pass somebody, and all of a sudden that's all forgotten, and it's a great time again.
Nice driving.
I just love it because not too many people get to do it, and you're just out there in the middle of nowhere going as fast as you can, just pushing the limits and everything, and it's just an awesome feeling.
As much fun as it was riding shotgun in the first 2 attempts in the Ranger, I think this time you're gonna navigate.
No sweat, Jessi.
Hey guys, welcome back to Xtreme 4x4. We just finished the Poison Spyder, and while we go over everything so it can get out, we want to go ahead and fix the Ranger so it can get back on the trail where it belongs.
Now, building this Ranger was no simple task, considering all that's left of the donor vehicle we dragged to the junkyard is just a cab and about 3 feet of frame rail. But unfortunately for us, our Ranger Resurrection was rather short-lived. As a matter of fact, this is how we had to get the truck back on our trailer. Not a pretty sight for sure. Good to have a friend named Darren with a front-end loader nearby. But 10 minutes before this, the Ranger was running great, scaring trees and our cameraman. And now that we have the truck back here at Xtreme, we've been able to take a good look at it and we've tracked down the start of the whole problem.
Originally, we had thought that it was this heim joint on the front of the upper link, but when we took a closer look, this is what we found. On the rear lower link, a grade 5 bolt was inadvertently installed, sheared right off, and created the whole chain reaction. And I know you guys are probably thinking, didn't Ian and Jessi tell us to use nothing other than a grade 8 bolt for all your off-road suspension? Well, unfortunately, in the rush of getting everything done, this little sucker slipped right through the cracks.
And that just goes to show you that you really got to watch every single thing, go over everything before you hit the trail, because one small oversight can cause a lot of damage.
We're gonna upgrade to a larger 3/4 inch bolt in the front, so we gotta redesign the lower mounts. All I have to do is gusset it right here. It should be super strong. The new upper link mounts will be built using the same beefy through the frame design that we did on the rear. This will ensure that the only way this can break now is if the entire frame rail fails.
Now when those front link mounts let go, basically the only thing holding our front axle underneath our truck were our shock absorbers. Now there's no way a shock can come out of a wreck like that undamaged, and ours are no different. Unfortunately, one of ours is bent, and this shaft actually has been sheared right off at the lower heim. Now it's not that big of a deal, because when you're using rebuildable shocks like our Bilsteins, parts are easy to come by. As a matter of fact, all we had to do was call up Bilstein Shocks, explain the problem, and they sent us 2 new lower shafts for our shock absorbers. And replacing these is actually a lot easier than you think. With the shock body in a vise and the nitrogen release, I will remove the rod guide from the bottom of the tube. Then the rod can slide out with the valve pack bolted to it. Swap the valve pack to the new shock rod and reassemble the shock and install the springs. Here you go, Jess. 1 down, 1 to go.
Perfect timing, thank you. All right, now that I have a fixed shock, I can go ahead and put in some beefier lower mounts, because before, all we had were these little tabs that sheared right off when everything went kaboom. Earlier, I went ahead and built some extra heavy-duty mounts with gusseting and TIG welding for super duper strength. Once I get the shock positioned, I can finish welding in the lower mounts, then gusset the rest for strength.
And the last item to repair on this Ranger is the drive shaft. One call to Tom Woods explaining what had happened, and he sent us a new front slip yoke.
Don't go anywhere. Ranger and Spyder take on the rocks when Xtreme 4x4 continues.
Welcome back to Xtreme 4x4. With both trucks trailered up, we headed to a nearby off-road park to give them a go. The inaugural run for the Spyder.
You wanna come for a ride? Jump in, man.
And hopefully third time's a charm for our Ranger.
The hardest job when building our Poison Spyder rock rod was creating an entire front axle from scratch, starting with only a center section. But once on the trail, it was obviously the right decision. From the custom width to the beefy superior shafts and CTM U-joints, we knew it could handle anything we threw at it.
With ginormous flex, thanks to our double triangulated forelink and Bilstein rock crawler coilovers, the Spyder tackled with ease obstacles that required a lot of articulation.
Gearing is the Spyder's secret weapon, with 529s in the axles, ultimate low Atlas 2 with a 5-to-1, and our deep first gear ratio in the 4L65E transmission, the Spyder crawled up most trails just off idle. But that doesn't mean it's only built for slow cruising. Chicka-pow! Paka-chew!
Good job, good job.
It's that hydraulic steering, because you don't have full hydraulic steering when you're on your side like that. You can't get the tire to turn back underneath you. But with full hydraulic, you're basically lifting the whole weight of the truck up, and then you just put it in reverse and it'll just back right out.
The Ranger finally performed like a champ.
Come on, just a little more throttle. There you go, there you go, there you go.
Agile on the rocks. And a beast out in the open.
Together, a great juxtaposition. One, a tube chassis purposely built.
The other, a pickup that was cut up and rebuilt. Both of them totally wicked.
I just need one dry spot.
More lap.
All right, there you go, guys. 2 trucks, one back on the trail and one on the trail for the first time. I think, all in all, pretty good day. What do you think?
I think they both kicked some hardcore. They did very well. They handled awesome. I think we did a really good job.
It was a good day.
You should be proud of us.
Hey.
As much as we're proud of us.